What if I told you the way it has always been done is not the best way? Facing your fears will change your life. The passion behind this journey is merging two separate worlds into one with the goal of creating value and awareness for a better life.
I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. Welcome to another edition of the Iron and Infrastructure Podcast. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a one-of-one, first time ever on the show. We have a damn derelict. Josh the derelict, self-proclaimed derelict, I would say. Josh, I'm excited to have you on here. Had a little bit of a conversation here before we started recording, and man, we have a lot in common, and I have nothing but respect for what you're trying to do. So, brother, let's just hit it right from the start. Who is Josh the derelict?
Yeah, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on your show. Well, maybe the best way to start that is to start with the word derelict, because it's a word that not a lot of people know. Usually the only people that I ever run into that have ever heard the word derelict are people that have seen the movie Zoolander. And I don't know if you remember back in the day, but the campaign that he did called the Derelict campaign, when he basically dressed up like a homeless guy in a bunch of trash.
Is that where it comes from?
Yeah. So there's one line in the movie that a lot of people remember, and that is when Owen Wilson's character looks at him and he says, "Derelict my balls, Capitan." So I've thought about maybe putting that on a shirt. Haven't done it yet.
Definitely should. I highly recommend it.
But from the movie, if you remember that at all, the Derelict campaign was basically him just dressed in a bunch of trash. And the reason why is because derelict means abandoned, outcast, thrown aside. If you Google the term, you're going to see a bunch of homeless people. You're going to see a bunch of dilapidated buildings. You'll see a bunch of broken down ships in the middle of the ocean. And why would I give myself such a terrible title and call my company The Derelict, including my podcast as well? Well, the reason why is because I coach men, and the men that I coach are generally very successful in whatever terms they consider that, but they also feel a bit outcast. They feel a bit on the edges. They feel a bit out of whatever the norms are or whatever people are expecting of them or requiring of them. Mm-hmm. And I really discovered this about myself when I went through my divorce several years ago, where all of a sudden everything changed. My community, the friends, the people that I thought were my close-knit, people, all of a sudden I felt very much on the outside. And what I realized after talking with more and more men is that I still haven't met a man who doesn't feel that way, at least a little. Like there's just
that's so
something.
Good.
Yeah, there's just something that's not. That again, it's outcast, it's disparaged, it's thrown aside. So that's not a victim mentality thing. I want to be really clear here because you could take it that way. I'm not a victim whatsoever. I'm a victor in my life. I choose to be. You can choose to be a victim or a victor, as you know. That's all a mindset. Mm-hmm. So I am a victor, and I see it as a badge of honor. It's the same way I see failure as a badge of honor. A lot of people see failure and they think, oh, it's shameful. Like I am a failure. I'm a terrible person. Well, that's not what failure means. If you look up the definition of failure, besides just being a lack of success, the second definition of failure says that a required or expected action didn't occur. That's my paraphrase. Now, if you just think, well, an expected or required action didn't occur, then that means I fail every day. That means that if I literally walk outside my front door right now to go down the steps and I trip, that's a failure. So to have this idea that failure is bad, well, how do you learn unless you fail? It's the same, let's use walking. No person ever has learned how to walk without failing. Not one. Mm-hmm. You get up and you fall on your butt, right? You watch kids do it all the time.
Every day. Yeah.
It's the same with business. It's the same with marriage. It's the same with relationships. It's the same with everything. So if we're so opposed to failing or to being this derelict, then we're never going to learn anything, because we're going to keep doing the exact same thing we've always been doing. And this is me, man. I've done this plenty in my life until I finally decided not to. And then we never learn from it, and never grow from it, and we never become that next best version of ourselves. So really my passion is helping guys embrace the failure, embrace the derelict side and inside of them, so that they can move on to the next level that they're being held from. Like when I was in my marriage before my divorce and everything else, and this was not my wife's fault, so don't again hear this as a victim thing. I just was the type of person that was just not moving towards the best version of myself. And it took business failures, relationship failures, my divorce, for me to finally get kicked in the ass enough to realize like, oh, maybe I need to do some things differently, and maybe I need to embrace the fact that I'm not doing well here and the fact that I'm failing here, so that I can move forward.
It's amazing how you say that. You know, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. We learn and get better because we fail. And the only reason that we accomplish anything in life is because we're willing to take a chance and fail. And the people that don't ever take a chance to, or are too scared to fail at something, they failed before they even tried. That is a complete failure to me, and I guarantee anyone that doesn't pursue what they want in life, when they're on their deathbed, if they're lucky enough to lay there and have time, they're going to hate themselves for not ever taking that chance. That is failure at the highest degree to me. That's what hell sounds like to me, is laying there on the deathbed and realizing that I did not become the person that I could have become. You know, thinking that I left so much out there and so much that was possible, and I just was scared to fail, which ultimately is failure in itself. It's not even trying.
So true. So true. C.S. Lewis, who's a fantastic writer, once said, "Only under torture does man discover himself." And it's not the word failure, but I think we could replace the word failure there.
Yeah.
And I think we could say, only under failure does man discover himself.
Absolutely. It's when you're willing to embrace the ego, to face it, to face the inner, you know, we're men, right? So by default, we have testosterone, we have pride, and we have courage by default. But it doesn't mean that we're actually courageous. It doesn't mean that we actually become a real man. It just means that we're destined to do that, but so many people don't. Being silent and not willing to open up about certain things is not strength to me. Being able to face the man in the mirror daily and look at yourself and say, am I proud of who I'm becoming? Or am I just really masking this, putting a mask on every day and not being my true self? It's really interesting today's age, because so many people are just lost in life. They have no direction, no ambition, and no willingness to say fuck you to everyone out there that is trying to stop them from achieving any type of dream. You know, for us, Josh, to achieve our dreams, everyone else's dream for us has to die. And if everyone else's doesn't die, ours ends up dying.
Yeah. Brene Brown, who has become known for her talks and now books on vulnerability, once had, she has this video, I'm sure you could find it pretty easily on YouTube, and I thought it was really fascinating. She said that after one of her talks on vulnerability, a man came up to speak to her afterwards and essentially said, "Hey, I really appreciate everything that you've done on vulnerability. It's really helped me a lot in my life, etc." He said, "I'm just curious, why is it that you don't write about men in your books?" And she said, "Well, I don't study men." And his response to her was, "Well, how convenient." And that really clicked with her. And then
I've seen that.
Have you seen that? Yeah. And then she goes on to tell the story about how she was purposefully excluding men because of the fact that her mind was just so against the idea of studying men and vulnerability. And it was easier for her to study women because women by default are easier at being vulnerable. They just are. I mean, here's a good example. You test this in society and tell me I'm wrong. A woman comes to anybody and says, hey, I'm in therapy, or I'm in this victim support group, or I'm getting help for X, whatever X is. 9.5 times out of 10, the response to her will be, good for you. You do you. That's fantastic. You deserve it. That's amazing. I'm so happy that you're doing that. Now reverse it. A man says the same thing.
You're weak. You're
A
soft.
man comes to you and says, I'm in therapy. I'm in a victim support group. I need help with this. I'm going here because I'm really struggling. Then you're absolutely right. The response is, well, there's a couple responses. Number one response is, man up. Get your fucking shit together. You know, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and try again. Get back on the horse. Or, what's worse, what the fuck did you do? You must have had an affair or something else because of the fact that now you're going to therapy. Who caught you? Like, why is the automatic default assumption that we did something wrong if we need assistance? But the automatic assumption for women is good for you that you're working on yourself. And now I'm not blaming society for why men don't get help or don't get assistance, because we, again, can't be the victim. But it sure as fuck doesn't help. It sure as fuck doesn't help men think, oh God, like, of course I'd love to go get help, when most of the people in their life are going to shame them for that, which is why we don't like the word failure, because we feel like shame. We got to hide it. We feel like we have to hide it as men. Like somehow I can't actually be vulnerable with you of what's going on, because then you might know the real me and you might know that there's a lot of fucking shit up in this head. Well, guess what, man? There's shit up in everybody's fucking head. Just get it out there. And what I've seen, the best way to connect with a man is to be vulnerable, to be open, to be like, look, I struggle with this. This is my problem. This is what I'm going through. This is what I need help with. And every time I've done that with somebody that has proven to be safe and respectful and loving, it's only turned out good for me.
It's so incredibly powerful, Josh, because being strong enough to say what you're weak at automatically by default makes you vulnerable. But it doesn't make it weakness, it creates a strength, because 99% of men are probably unwilling to talk about the thing that they are not good at, even though everybody around them already fucking knows. We can see it a mile away. It's not a secret. Like, I am a organizational dumpster fire. I am a chaotic, visionary, wild. I can't organize the ABCs, let alone, actually document and organize my email inbox. I don't touch any of it. But I know what I suck at. I'm not very good at much. I'm bad at a lot. But the few things that I'm good at, that's all I try to do, and that's it. I stay in my unique ability and nothing else. I don't care that I suck at stuff. I don't want to do everything anyways. I would rather have someone that's excellent at it, delegate, and have, a person next to me that can organize and do all the things that I suck at. Hell, yes. Why would I want to do stuff that I'm not good at and I hate? That's like hell. So just being willing to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm probably not going to be the best resource for this or for that. And that is a sign of leadership. Leadership is willingness to be wrong, to admit when you're wrong, and show everyone else that it's okay to be wrong and fail, because you don't become a leader by not failing. Failing is a prerequisite for leadership.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I one thing that I've learned after being an entrepreneur and a business owner for many, many years is that there's a lot of things that I am not good at, just like you were mentioning. And they're probably similar to what you're not good at, which is why we both own businesses and are entrepreneurs, right? Like, not a lot of us are good at things like administrative work and other things, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I've also learned out is, a lot of people will often ask me, like, why don't you build a bigger team, like have more advisors underneath you or more coaches underneath you and all that sort of thing. And one of the things that I've just learned about myself is I'm just not a good manager. I'm just not. And I've just accepted that. I've just accepted. And here's why. I'm a great coach, I'm a great motivator, and I'm a great leader. That's different than a manager. Because the thing that drives me crazy is people that are living in whatever their own victim mindset is, that are unwilling to get out of it or unwilling to even admit that they're there. That's different than the man who comes to me and says, I know that I have these victim mentalities, these limiting mindsets, these beliefs, help coach me through that. Okay, that's one thing. Then there's the one that's like, well, it's this person's fault and it's this person and all men do this and all women do this and all celebrities do this and all billionaires do this and all, fill in the blank. I can't deal with those people.
Yeah.
That's been something that I've just learned I cannot do. Now, do we all do that? Yes. Do I say that myself? Absolutely. Do I fall in traps of that? Yes, absolutely. But somebody that just is a continual victim and unwilling to look at themselves and unwilling to take responsibility for their side of the street, I think one of the big reasons I can't deal with that person is because I used to be that person.
Yep.
And
Dude, same.
I can't do it. I can't even be around it anymore because it's so, it's almost like so traumatic for me to just think about when I used to just fucking blame everything else and just not take any responsibility.
So good. I reference this nonstop, and with my 7-year-old daughter, I do it as well. Life is a mirror, it's not a window. So if you're looking out the window trying to validate your excuse for why you can't or blame someone else, you got to just look in the mirror. Everything that we have or don't have in life, where we're at now, is because of the mirror. There are certain things that are going to navigate that path, sure, but every adversity is really a pro or a con based on the reaction to it. And to me, adversity and failure is nothing more than an opportunity to learn and to get better. And the day that we realize that we are fully accountable for our own outcomes is the day that we start to actually have growth and start to find fulfillment. Power follows the blame finger. If we're always pointing at someone else, you're giving them all the power. So for someone that you can't stand in your life, that you despise or did something wrong, if you're still blaming them for it, you're giving them all the power.
Absolutely.
So you're quite literally handing over the keys to the car to the person that you despise. And I can't think of a more dissatisfying thing in life than not being able to control your own outcome. It's so disheartening to me.
Well, the thing that people don't realize and would be good for them to realize is that anytime you blame someone else, have bitterness towards them, resentment, anger, you're drinking your own poison. You're not hurting them, ever.
Hurt yourself.
You're only hurting yourself. Because all that's doing is preventing you from moving on to the next level of your life. But sometimes, and again, I've fallen victim to this plenty of times. I shouldn't even say I've fallen victim to this. I've been the victim of this. I've done this myself. So everything that I talk about is things that I've done because I've failed at all this stuff, right? And I'm okay with that. But, sometimes, and I think this happens with a lot of guys too, is that we just get tired. Like we just get exhausted.
Yep.
There's a reason. The saddest statistic that I know is that the highest rate of suicide is 35 to 50-year-old men. Men in what traditionally has been termed midlife, even though we're living a lot longer than that now. Why is it that a man at his peak, by the way, a man is at his peak in his 40s, really. It's generally the time where they're the most successful in their business. They've gone through a lot. They've learned a lot. They're making the most money. They have a family. They have all the different levels of success because of the fact that that's just the age that they're at. Why is it when a man is at his peak, he decides to end it all? And I think the main reason is because of fatigue, just exhaustion, just feeling like it's not worth it anymore. It's just, I just feel like I'm fighting everything, everyone, all the time, and it's fucking exhausting. And I'm tired of it.
It's so good. Man, it is so good.
So either I'm going to just give up and go back and live with my parents and eat potato chips and play video games all day and numb myself out with alcohol and weed or drugs or shopping or young women or sex or fill in the blank. Or maybe it's just not even worth it anymore. I'm just going to kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Vince Lombardi, one of the best coaches, arguably, of any sport of all time, once said, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And it's so true. Because when I know when I am fatigued, I'm exhausted, I'm tired in my body, my soul, my spirit, and I've gone through plenty of that even within the last couple of years. When I'm in that space, I can become a real coward. And I can not do the things that I know I need to do. And I can really avoid any sort of difficulty, things that I would need to be courageous to do, etc. Because I'm just like, I'm fucking tired, man. I just want somebody else to take care of this. I don't want to have to do it myself. And that's the moment when men stop being men, is when they rely on somebody else to do what they need to do. Men are put on this earth to be confident, courageous individuals that do the tough things. We are the ones called into war. We are the ones called into the difficult things in life. And there's a reason for that. Gender equality does not exist because women are not called to do that. And the reason why is because we're built and designed differently. And there's nothing wrong with either one. Neither one is better. But you tell me how well it works if in a war, in a crisis, in difficulty and everything else, the women are called in. It doesn't work. And that's not because they're not just as powerful as men. They are in different ways. The feminine power is stronger than masculine power in a lot of ways. It's feminine power that's actually created or had a lot of wars, a lot of men fight each other because of the fact that all we want more than anything is feminine energy around us. That's all we want. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be called in those circumstances. It just doesn't.
Oh, I mean, I look at it this way, you know, women are providers of peace and men are providers of protection. And so when you think about the suicide rate in men, the prime age of 35 to 50 is, you're getting in the prime age, you know what life is about at that age, or you should. So you realize what the reality looks like. And I'm just wondering, Josh, from the research that you've done with today's society, men are providers, protectors, and they are all about solutions. They do not want someone that they love to have pain. They want to take that pain away. And even if that means that they take it all on themselves. And I think about sadness, anxiety in men. Sadness to me would be a man that's hopeless, that just can't figure out what to do to overcome this situation. Anxiety would be having so many options that you can't pick one. You know, so there's so many different things and you can't pinpoint one that you think would be the best. Because men are about more about logic and more about solutions, and women are about emotion and comfort and peace. And it takes both of them together in a traditional home, in my opinion, that creates the ultimate household, that creates the ultimate establishment. But we are not wired the same way. And that is the most true statement that could ever be made. Men and women have different roles in life, and they're both necessary for society to move forward.
100%.
So,
could you imagine society with just a bunch of men? It'd be a fucking shit show.
We'd kill each other.
Absolutely, we would.
There wouldn't be a society left. We'd all be dead.
Absolutely.
Quite literally.
In a society
But,
of all women, fucking terrible.
Yeah, nothing would ever get built.
No.
I mean, it's just reality. And it's, you know, men go to war, men break their backs, they're blue collar workforce, they're the infrastructure developers. I mean, it's just.
One of the, I saw this, I don't even remember who this was, but they were talking about gender equality in the workplace. And this guy had such a great response.
It's
because
Jordan Peterson,
it was
guarantee it.
It was these young women basically talking about how there need to be equal women and men in every single workforce. And he said, what about bricklayers? I think
Yes, it was Jordan Peterson. Yeah.
Was it Jordan Peterson?
I think so, yeah.
It might have been. Yeah, he sounds
I know
like
exactly what you're talking about, though.
He's like, look, bricklayers are like 95% men, so are you saying that it needs to be 50% women? Find the 50% women that are going to go do fucking bricklaying. Or construction. Or army, war. It's, you know, like, it just doesn't make sense. We're designed in different ways for different reasons. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You know, one of the things that you said earlier, too, that I want to come back to, that I think is really important as well, is It's the power of presence. Presence is maybe the most difficult thing in my life, is to just be as intensely present in whatever moment I'm in. Eckhart Tolle is one of the experts at presence. If you haven't read any of his books, I'd recommend it. I've been able to see him personally, in person, I should say. Not personally, I haven't met the guy, but I saw him in person as well, and I was just captivated by listening to him. Here's one of the things he said. He said, whenever you deeply accept this moment as it is, no matter what form it takes, you are at peace. Eckhart Tolle. And he talks a lot about being present. I saw a video that he did a little while ago, I think it was on Instagram, where he was just talking about the presence of just walking to his kitchen. He was talking about how present he was when he got up out of his chair and noticed how his legs were moving and noticed the light and the way that, and he was just so, I was like, I don't think I've ever been that present in my life to notice every little thing that's happening. But here's the reason I'm bringing this up. Why is presence so important? Because of what you said earlier. Let's go back to those midlife men that are ending it all. Well, why? Guarantee they're not living in the present moment, because there's nothing in the present moment but peace. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what circumstances are happening. You could be in the worst circumstance in your life, but if you're present with yourself, you're at peace. Guaranteed, no matter what. Full stop. Mm-hmm. Always. Because anxiety, which a lot of men struggle with, is always future focused. 100% of the time, you cannot be anxious if you're in the present moment. You also can't be anxious if you're in the past. Anxiety is 100% future. Think about it. Well, I'm anxious that what? This is going to happen. It's the future. It's always the future. Always the future. What about the past? In the past, the downside can be shame, because the past is always focused on what I did do that I wish I would have done differently.
Yep.
And that can be good in the form of guilt, because guilt might just be, oh, I fucked up and I have to figure out how to make that better. I have to admit my wrongdoings. I have to apologize. I have to make amends. I have to do all those things are good. But then guess what? When you're doing those things, you're in the present, because you have to be in the present to make an amends. You have to be in the present to apologize. You have to be in the present to admit what you did. The only way you can live in the past is if you're living in some sort of shame, where it's like, oh, I'm a bad person. I've done bad things. So every man that decides to end it has to be living in the past or the future. They have to be living in shame or anxiety, because any man that is living fully present with who they are in this moment, there's nothing but peace and joy and love that comes in that moment. It has to be past or future. It could even be, let me give you a really extreme example. Somebody is putting a needle in their arm and about to OD on whatever drug of choice they're using. And they have that moment of clarity of, oh shit, what did I do? That is a moment of the past, because they're living in the shame, even if it was only a minute ago, of whatever they just did. Mm-hmm. They're not living in the present moment, because that person, even if they're about to die, if they're living in the present moment, they're not thinking, oh shit, what did I do? I'm a terrible person. What they're thinking is, I need to make best of this last moment that I have here on earth. What do I do?
So good. I talk about this quite often. Being present is a gift. And I think that's why they call gifts presents, because it truly is a gift to understand what it's like to be present in the moment.
It's a gift, but it's also an art.
It is, because you have to be intentional about it. And so that brings me, my theme right now is intentional attention. So when I am home with my kids, I am fully 100% there. On this podcast, Josh, you got 100% of my attention right now. Being intentional with what you put your attention to, because it's easy to be 60% in on everything and really be all in on nothing. And so, like, focus. Think about focus. Are you truly present and focusing on a task? And with the distraction society that we have today, it's easy for everybody to get really distracted really quick. A damn bird chirps, the next thing you know, I've been scrolling on Facebook for an hour.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like, what just happened? Like, where did this time go? And you don't get it back. And what I've realized, you got to find joy in the journey. So I always say, find joy in the journey, don't have destination disease. So for 12 years, I went after one goal. 12 years, I'm going to buy R&R pipeline by the time I'm 30. And when I achieved it, I'm standing up on top of the mountain, and I'm ready to feel it, because I'm going to feel it. This big thing that was impossible to do. Everyone told me I would never accomplish it, and I did. And I thought, man, I proved them all wrong. I'm going to feel something. Josh, 2 days after, I'm on top of Mount Everest, and I'm so gutted and empty inside, and I had no idea why. I didn't enjoy the process of getting there. The hardship, the hell that I went through to buy that company, did not embrace the journey because I wasn't present. I didn't have gratitude for the hardship. So now, every day when I go to the gym, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the gym by 3:30, 3:45. The first thing I do when I get to the gym, 5 to 15 minutes of pure gratitude. And I just focus on something of the infrastructure inside the gym. So I train it. It's called the Old School Gym. It's a nationwide, well-known hardcore gym. It's a 1970s bodybuilding style throwback, rusty, nasty. You might get herpes from taking a shit there because the bathroom's disgusting, right? So it's just rugged and old, and the building's that way. It represents it very well. And man, I just have such appreciation for something new every time I go in there, because one day, Josh, one day is going to end. One day will be the last day that I walk in that place. And because it's something so special to me, every time I get the opportunity to walk in there, I just embrace it with presence. And that's how I start my day, almost like daily gratitude. It's how I start. And it's hard. I'm distracted too. I'm just as guilty as the next person on distraction. But embracing the present moment has been the reason why the adversity I've had in the last few years, since that Mount Everest, I achieved this goal. All the adversity since that, when I figured out what life was all about, all the adversity became so much more peaceful when I just faced it, because the reality was I am never going to be this person in this situation again. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me to overcome something. And no matter how heavy the pressure is, no matter how much pain I'm going through, I just got to keep going, because I'm 3 feet from gold. And if I stop now, it's going to bury me. But if I keep going, I'm going to break through it. And that's where being present is so extremely impactful to get through the hard stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had this experience just yesterday. So I picked up my kids from school, and I've been feeling fatigued lately. I've been feeling exhausted. I've been feeling like it just seems like one of those seasons where I'm putting in the hours and things aren't coming about the way that I want them to come about, which, we all go through these seasons, and that's okay. And I'm really bad at taking a break and calming down and giving myself the space, because I just keep going. Because my answer, and I think a lot of maybe type A guys relate to this, my answer is just do more. Because if you just keep doing more, eventually something will work. Well, that's not always the best response. It just isn't. Because sometimes you just need to relax for a second.
Yep.
And it was nice weather here, which is unusual this time of year. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and it's usually rainy and cloudy and everything else this time of year. And the sun was out, or at least briefly out, kind of out, half out, which is about as good as you can get at this time of year. And my daughter is in this just like reading competition in her school, so she wanted to read. She's like, I'm going to go out front and read. And she's just reading on the steps in the front of the house. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go join her. And I went, and I just took her little gym mat that she uses. She does gymnastics and dance and everything else. I took the gym mat, I put it on my front driveway, and I just laid down. And I can't tell you the last time I did that in the middle of the day, because I don't give myself the permission to do that. Like, you have too much work to do. You don't have time for this. And I just laid down, and I closed my eyes, and I just hung out there while she was reading. And man, that was maybe the most peaceful 20 minutes of my life in I don't know how long.
Good for you, man.
And it was a really good reminder that I usually suck at doing that. And it's amazing how just a little walk or a little lay down in the sun or a little getting off screens for just, it's going on a walk without your phone for an hour, right? Mm-hmm. Or a half an hour or whatever. It's just we're so tied to all these different things that stress us out so much that it's hard for me to remember that I just need to, I need to take a break. I just need even a mini detox. It doesn't have to be like a week off of screens or anything. It just might be like 10 minutes, man. Like you said, it's sitting in the gym and having 10 minutes of just gratitude. Mm-hmm. It's literally waking up in my bed and just being grateful that I'm awake, that I'm breathing, that I'm alive. Mm-hmm. Like how many things have to happen correctly in my body just to be alive? And why am I not grateful for that every single day? Why am I focusing on all the shit that I can't control? And I'm not focusing on the fact that there are so many different things happening in my body just to keep me alive and healthy right now.
That's so good. I talk about focusing on the controllables, focus on what you can control, because anything else is just going to cause misery.
Yeah.
And, when I went through this journey at probably 20 years old, 19 or 20 years old, Josh, is when I really had to break down my reality. And my reality was dead or in jail by 21 was my ceiling of success in high school. Wow. So I had zero outlook in my future. Dead or in jail by 21. At 19 years old, Josh, I was on that path. I wasn't far from that, even by 20. And that's when I had to really break it down. I don't know what the end is. I don't know what next year looks like. What is the things that I can control right now, the top 3 to 5 things that would have the biggest impact on my life? And start with number 1 and figure it the hell out with one step. Trying to get to the end real quick is just a recipe for failure and quitting. Not falling down. It's falling down and never getting up. What can I do? What is the next step? You can't see the forest through the trees sometimes. And one step in the right direction. If you knew all the answers, you'd already done it, but you can take one step. You can do 1 minute of something. You can do 1 second of something. And it's just that little commitment in the compound effect, one of my favorite books. You start a habit and it eventually becomes what's so small, becomes so profound and so big, you don't even recognize it when it does because you've been just stacking that win every day. I always reference a piñata. You have all these kids hitting a piñata, and then 20 little sluggers come up and hit it, and then you have this little petite girl that comes up and swings and misses, and she spins all the way around, and it comes up over her shoulder, and it barely taps the piñata, but the whole thing explodes.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't that final blow; it was all the ones that led up to that.
Yeah,
but it's just doing the little thing every day, but knowing that you are worthy of fulfillment in life. Men, I think by design, are focused on everyone else. And I'll be damned on this one. This is one that I'm non-negotiable for me. I have to put me first. Because if I don't do me first and put myself first and be the best version of myself I can, no one gets the best me. They get a diminished return. And when you're on a plane, they tell you put the oxygen mask on you first. Why? Because if you put on someone else, you're probably going to die and you're not going to be able to save anybody. But if you have oxygen, you can help everyone else, right? Focusing on yourself and being selfish makes you a better dad, better spouse, a better leader in your business. And the point of burnout is real because I understand I'm in the same boat you are. And I call it the 3 Ps, but it's push, pull, pivot. So sometimes you have to push through because we're being soft or, it's hard. Expecting it to be easy is what makes it harder. So we know this is going to be hard. Sometimes you just have to push through. Sometimes you got to pull all the way back and just say, man, when I set out to do this thing, I was a certain capacity of knowledge then. So 6 months, 6 years, whatever it was. Is this still aligned with my 10-year vision or my 3-year milestone, whatever it is? Is this thing I'm pursuing still the same impact on me as what it was? So you got to pull back and just do an assessment. And sometimes after you pull back, you realize that this isn't what I want anymore, and you have to pivot and do something different. And it's not quitting, it's learning that you know what, this is not the same desire that I had before. If you still want it and you quit, that's completely different. But pivoting away from something doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you learned something, and it's okay. And, push, pull, pivot. Man, sometimes you just got to do the reality check. And I actually found that for myself, kind of like what you're saying, I have a hammock I have a, like a 20 by 44 RV bay for a gym. And it's pretty epic too, by the way. I'm not going to bullshit you, but I have a hammock in there. And it's right next to my sauna. And sometimes I get done with the sauna and I get cooled off. And I'll lay in that hammock 10 minutes. And I'll just put my hoodie, my beanie over my eyes. And I just, no thought whatsoever. And I am so refreshed after 10 minutes of this nothing. Because doing nothing is really hard. Really hard. Borderline impossible.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to have maybe difficulty with this next statement, because what you said is so true, that serving yourself first is important. A lot of people think that serving yourself first is selfish and self-centered and egotistical and narcissistic. But here's the truth. The best way to serve others is by serving yourself first. The best way to love others is by loving yourself first. The best way to feed into others is to feed into yourself first. And there are two ways of feeding or loving, or feeding into yourself, loving into yourself. One is so that you can do it for your own ego, for your own view of yourself, for your own selfishness. And absolutely, that can be self-centered. The other way is so that you can be the best person in order to be the best person for others. But what anyone will know that has either been, let's say, a victim in, you could even call it an abusive relationship, or they've been codependent, or they've been enmeshed, or they've been in any of these other things, one of the things that they know once they get out of it is that they have to love themselves first. Because if they don't, and they're just trying to serve everybody else, generally it's done out of insecurity, first of all, for them, and it doesn't actually help anybody in the first place. Second of all, if you are trying to give love out of an empty bucket, there's no love to give. So even though your intentions are the best, it's not going to go anywhere, because you have to have the love to give first, and you have to give yourself love first. And this is something that I learned very much the hard way. I spent a lot of years of my life not doing that. One thing you said a long time ago in this episode that I thought was really good is getting to the point of, fuck you, I don't care. And that doesn't mean that you don't care about people. What it means is that you don't care about their version of you. One thing that I learned a long time ago from a man much wiser than myself was, he said, you have to get to a point where you let everyone have their own story about you. You let everyone have their own narrative about you. Because number one, you can't control their narrative of you. You cannot control their story of you. All you can control is your actions, what you do, what you show up with. So do that to the best you can. When you do that, here's what I found. The more authentic I'm living, the more certain people are attracted to me. And I don't just mean romantic attraction, I just mean attraction whatsoever. Friendship, networking, etc. The more authentic I am, the more some people are really attracted to me, and some people are really detracted by me. It's more extreme. What I've found is that if I'm in a place in my life where people aren't really getting attracted or detracted, there's something wrong. I'm not living my authentic self. Because if I've learned anything, it's that the more authentic I am, the more some people love me and some people fucking hate me. So I know if I'm living authentically, I'm going to receive both of those. And if I'm not living authentically, I'll probably have some sort of middle ground where people don't really have strong opinions about me. That's what I feel.
I would almost, Josh, venture to say that the ones that are more attracted to you that you mesh with are probably the ones you want to be around anyways. Because they're just like you, more self-aware. They're more aligned with how you are as an individual. And
It's a beautiful thing. Like, again, this is not easy for me. I still don't love it when people don't like me or having issues with me. Like, I'm currently, as we're recording this podcast, I'm having an issue with a really good friend and we're not talking right now. And that kills me. I hate that. I really don't like it. I would rather just do everything that I can to make sure we're okay. But I'm not going to do that and lose myself at the same time. But here's what I have learned is that, dude, there's 8 billion people in the world. Why are you worried about the ones that don't like you? Move the fuck on and find somebody else within the 8 billion people that actually just likes you for you. Why do we let these people that are detracted by us and that don't like us have so much space in our mind and our energy and our spirit? And again, I'm not one that said that I figured this out. I still do that sometimes. But man, fuck it. Move on, be yourself, and find somebody else that just fucking loves you for you.
Authenticity, man. It is a key to fulfillment. Because if you're putting a different mask on, if depending on the crowd, if you're a chameleon, it's miserable because you got to pretend to be somebody you're not. If you can't see your own value in the world, Josh, then how is anybody else going to see it?
For sure. And dude, it's exhausting, man. I've done it plenty of times. I've been in sales all my life, and there's always kind of an element of that in sales too. And man, it's not even necessarily lying. Like, lying is exhausting too, because you got to remember who you told what. Right. But just being a chameleon is exhausting because you got to remember, like, well, what part of me do I put on right now, and then what part of me do I put on right now, etc.
Another interesting thing that you think about throughout this whole journey, how many scars did you have to justify because you love the person or you like the person that's holding the knife? So justifying someone else's presence in your world, it's like, man, this person just keeps stabbing me and keeps stabbing me. I got wounds everywhere. Why do I even allow it to happen? Because it's not on them. After a couple of slices, dude, it's on us. If we keep that in our life, no matter what it's doing to us, it takes from us, it's on us. And I want to go back and circle around to something. Confidence versus ego. I think about confidence versus ego, and there's a fine line there. Being authentic, being who you are. To me, though, my version of confidence is having proof that you can do what you say you can do, having proof that you know this thing. So you have a financial firm. I'm confident that you know a lot about it because that is a very tough industry. You own a business and you've been successful in it. So if you speak on it, I'm listening because there's no doubt that you're confident. And some people might see ego coming out or arrogance coming out. You're just stating facts because you have undeniable proof that this is who you are. But ego would be you saying that you aspire to have this financial firm one day, but you don't because you haven't earned it yet because you're not good enough yet, right? And so ego is aspiring to do something that you desire to have, but you don't have it yet. So you can't be an expert in this area without proof that says you are, which leads to confidence for me. And so I know how to put pipe in the ground. I'm a pipeliner by heart. I know how to bench press. I know how to work out. Like, I know these certain things. I've done it for a very long time. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. I have plenty of proof to prove that. That is not arrogance or ego whatsoever. That's me being confident.
Well, and it comes from knowledge and experience and failing.
Yeah.
Like, without those things, you wouldn't have gotten to a point where you know anything. It would be like somebody trying to teach somebody else how to bench press that's never bench pressed before in their life. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep. And you think about good enough. What does good enough mean? Well, good enough is a reality check. So am I an entrepreneur, Josh? Well, I guess that's out for opinion, but I have 4, 5 different business interests. I've done pretty well in my life. I live a life of fulfillment, but at the end of the day, can I say I'm an entrepreneur? Yeah, I can, because it's not just like a one business and I started one, that's it. I have quite a few business interests and I'm doing pretty damn good for myself. So yeah, I'm a fucking entrepreneur. Like, reality check is the proof. That's confidence. There's no arrogance about that because it's just a reality check that is proof, undeniable proof. And I don't feel anything saying that. I'm just speaking on something that I know. But whenever you talk about something that you don't know is when I think men get a bad rap. You know, a fact is information minus emotion. Opinions, it's information plus experience. Ignorance is an opinion lacking information, and stupidity is an opinion that just ignores factual information. And you think through that, it's like, God, how many people today see something on the internet, repurpose it, and act like a professional, and don't even know the first thing about it?
Yeah,
just be authentic.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so go back to my longest standing business, and that's in the financial planning space. I own a financial planning company, and I've been doing that just over 18 years, almost 19 years now. And so can I have some sort of ego and confidence in that? Of course I can, because I've been doing it for 18, 19 years. I've seen shit that people haven't seen that have done it for 6 months or whatever. But here's the other thing. In this industry, there is a 90% failure rate after 3 years. 90%, which means 10% of people last. Of the 10% of people that last, this is going to shock some people because people are always thinking people in finance are making all this money. The average financial advisor makes $60,000 a year. Now, I'm not denigrating $60,000. That's a livable wage for some people. If you want to make $60,000, go make $60,000. But no one in their right mind is going to say $60,000 is uber successful. There's just absolutely no way. It's hard to even live on that right now.
Especially for what you have to go through to get the ability just to do that, right? Yeah.
10% of people that even make it are making 60 grand a year. So is it egotistical for me to say, after making it for 19 years and making a hell of a lot more than $60,000 a year, is that, you know, an ego statement? No, it just comes with experience and failing and doing all the shit wrong to where I figured out how to make it work. That's it.
You just got a track record that you know what you're talking about. You know, another interesting fact, Josh, and I think it was 20 episodes, but it was, I think, 98% of podcasts don't make it past the 20th episode.
Yeah.
It was astronomical. And
I saw the average is 3. The average podcast lasts 3 episodes. That just shows you how many people
insane.
Quit. I mean, I get it, man. Like, I just celebrated 50 on my podcast, and I can't tell you how many times in those 50, like, it's almost been a year now because I do it weekly. And I can't tell you how many times in the last year where I'm like, this is fucking difficult. I quit. I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, there's been so many times where I'm like, fuck this. What the hell am I even doing this for?
Yeah.
Because it's fucking hard. Like, people don't understand. They're like, oh yeah, you just get in front of a camera and you talk. During this fucking conversation, my camera's died on me 5 times for no fucking reason whatsoever. Like, it's just shit like that you don't imagine is going to be so difficult about doing a podcast. And
I have no idea about the difficulties, man. It's unbelievable.
And I can tell you, man, after doing 50 episodes now, which is nowhere near as much as a lot of people have done, but it's a hell of a lot more than most people have done. Dude, the amount of failure and difficulty and everything else, you have to have a really strong why of why you're doing what you're doing. You have to have a really strong passion for that, because people don't just come out of the woodwork to listen to your podcast. People don't just all of a sudden flock to you. Like, of course, I had this real unrealistic expectation when I started mine. Like, oh, I'll just have like thousands of listeners and then millions of listeners, and it's just going to happen. It doesn't fucking happen. It doesn't, even if you're producing really amazing content.
Yeah.
But so you have to have this internal, like, I have a buddy of mine who does a podcast, and I think he's a good example. He's a big soccer guy. He played soccer growing up. He played like mini professional. I don't know what it's called. It like kind of minor leagues, let's say, whatever that's called in soccer. I don't remember. But he played, some of that. He decided a little bit ago, he's like, I'm going to do a soccer podcast, because he's obsessed with soccer. He still plays soccer. He's 50 years old. He loves soccer. He enjoys soccer. He knows people that like soccer. He got the local company that does soccer equipment to sponsor his show. That guy is going to be successful no matter what the numbers are. It doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter if 5 people listen to his podcast ever. He's successful because of the fact that he found something he loves, he enjoys, he's passionate about. And for him, it doesn't matter if there's millions of people listening. What he matters is he's talking to people about soccer. And that's all he fucking cares about, because he loves fucking soccer. And here's the thing, man, I get so distracted on like, well, what's going to work next, or what's going to make money, or what do I need to do, or like have somebody else tell me what to do. Man, if you just follow your heart and you just follow your passion and you just follow like what is important to you and what you really care about at the end of the day and what you really enjoy and what really brings you alive, you're going to be successful no matter what. It doesn't matter if no one follows you. If you're doing what you love, how is that a failure? An ultimate failure.
Dude, because it's the internal. It's the feeling of the person we become, not the accolade externally. And I could go on this for hours, but when I started a podcast, so I released mine in October of 2023 was when mine was first released. I think I'm at like 130 episodes now. I've done 2 episodes every week consistently since like the beginning of it. Wow. And so every Monday I've had an interview. Every Friday I've done like a solo or something, very short. And the consistency was unbearable for that first year. I didn't realize you had to have lighting set up. I had to learn about the different temperatures of lights, and then you got the camera settings in 4K, 1080. You have all these different platforms. Then you got to sync the audio. You got this interface. It's like, what the hell am I doing? I have no clue. No clue. This shit's a lot more expensive than I thought. Nobody wants to pay me for this right now. But right. I said, for 2 years, Josh, 2 years I'm dedicated and committed because of my purpose, my why. And after 2 years, if I feel like it just doesn't make sense anymore, I'll reassess. But no matter what,
you got like 6 months left then, brother. Nice work.
I'm good. No, I already got it. I'm good. I'm not going to stop just because I find true joy in doing this. My network's exploded. I met a lot of great people. I don't have a lot of downloads, a lot of followers yet. It will happen eventually, but I know that this is the only road to getting what I ultimately want. And it is the shortcut, but it's the long path to get there.
A while ago, Mr. Beast, who is, unarguably the most successful YouTuber of all time, posted something on his, I don't remember which social media account it was, but it was basically the amount of subscribers per year since he started. And he started really young. He started, when he was really young. But the thing that was encouraging to me when I looked at it, because his whole point was this doesn't happen overnight. It basically took him 9 years to be profitable with what he was doing. 9 years. And how many people will do anything for 9 years and not be profitable and keep going? Now, he is the most profitable YouTuber of all time by far. And what's interesting about it, though, is that anytime I love listening to the guy, I just love listening to interviews and everything else because you can't fake this. It has nothing to do with money for him at all. It has to do with his extreme passion for making the type of videos that he makes. Like, you can just tell when guys like that talk that they would do it if they never made a single dollar and had to live on a basement somewhere because they just love it that much.
Yeah.
And that's the most successful guy of all time. It's amazing.
This was the Iron Infrastructure Podcast. And today, ladies and gentlemen, you got a damn derelict on the other end. Josh, the derelict. Man, I appreciate your time. Saving the masculine men in this world. I want to shout you out, Josh. Plug your networks real quick where everyone can find you. You're doing a good thing. So where can the audience find you at?
Sure. If anybody wants to reach out to me individually, specifically if you are a man and you would like to be coached in any area of your life, you're at least open to that. I've been through all the failures, guys. So who better to learn from than the guy who's failed at everything and somehow come out the other side as a success? And I still fail. But I've run very successful companies. I know a lot about sales and mindset. I can help you get through your divorce. What it is you need, just reach out to me. Jacob, I'll offer this to your listeners just because you've been a great host. If you guys reach out to me on Instagram, I'm happy to give you a free coaching session. It's a $500 value. Just reach out to me on Instagram. Awesome. So the best way to get a hold of me on Instagram. So if you guys reach out to me on Instagram, just write R&R coach, because that'll remind me that we are from here. Just write R&R coach. Instagram is Josh the Derelict. So just go to Instagram, type in Josh the Derelict, R&R coach, and a free coaching session for you.
Awesome. Josh, I appreciate your time today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on, an honor, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for what you're doing. This has been the Iron Infrastructure Podcast with Josh the Derelict. He's ghosting on us right now because that's what he is, a damn derelict. And we're out.
My fucking camera's a derelict right now. Okay, thank you for having me on.
And that was Josh the Derelict, ladies and gentlemen. Josh, thanks again. We'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com.